before you blink, before your thumb scrolls, before this moment disappears into the noise of the internet, pause. Picture a cold wooden table, a dim light above it, and a small pile of old brown Lincoln pennies poured out from a forgotten jar that hasn't been opened in decades. They look dead, worthless, just copper ghosts from another time. But history is alive in those coins. Every scratch is a year survived. Every faded detail is a secret. Because somewhere between economic collapse, World War, mint panic, and human error, a few ordinary pennies were never meant to exist, and those mistakes slipped quietly into circulation, hiding in plain sight for generations. These coins traveled through the Great Depression when a single cent could mean food or hunger. They passed through wartime America when copper was more valuable than lives on the battlefield. They were touched by factory workers, soldiers, shopkeepers, and children, never knowing that. One day collectors would chase them like lost treasure. A missing letter, the wrong metal, a design pulled too fast. One tiny detail changed everything. What once bought a newspaper now buys houses. What once lay in gutters now sits behind bulletproof glass. People have found them in old drawers, in inherited boxes, in jars labeled junk. They were moments away from being spent, lost, melted, or thrown away, until someone stopped, looked closer, and realized the impossible. A penny worth thousands, hundreds of thousands, even over $1 million. These aren't myths. They're documented, graded, auctioned legends. And the scariest part? Most of them were discovered by ordinary people who almost missed them. So if you've ever held a Lincoln penny and thought, this is nothing, understand this. Every legendary coin once looked exactly the same. And the next 3 old, rare Lincoln pennies aren't just valuable. They are time bombs of history, waiting for the moment someone finally recognizes what they truly are. The story of the 1936 wheat penny begins during a time when America was slowly recovering from the Great Depression. The year 1936 was one of cautious optimism for the United States as people began to find work again. Industries were reviving, and the government's New Deal programs were helping rebuild confidence across the nation. The Lincoln wheat cent, which had already been in circulation for nearly 3 decades, by this time was one of the most familiar coins to the American people. Its simple yet powerful design had become a symbol of endurance through difficult times, and in 1936, this coin carried that spirit forward. The obverse of the wheat penny featured the famous profile of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, a sculptor whose work had left a lasting mark on American coinage since its introduction in 1909. The image of Lincoln was meant to embody honesty, courage, and leadership qualities that Americans deeply admired, especially during challenging years like the 30s. On the reverse side of the 1936 penny were 2 wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent United States of America and a pluribus unum. The wheat stalks were a tribute to American agriculture and the hard work of farmers who formed the backbone of the country's economy. Even in hard times, they reminded people of growth, renewal, and strength in unity. The minting of the 1936 wheat penny took place at 3 different locations: the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint. Each of these facilities produced millions of coins to meet the needs of the recovering economy. The Philadelphia Mint struck the largest quantity, and those coins bore no mint mark under the date. The Denver coins carried a small letter D, while the San Francisco coins featured an S mint mark, as collectors know each mint mark can influence a coin's rarity and value. The year 1936 is especially interesting because it marked one of the first times the United States Mint began producing proof coins for collectors after a long pause since 1916. These 1936 proof pennies were specially made with polished dies and smooth planchets, giving them a mirror-like finish that distinguished them from regular circulation coins. Only a few thousand of these proofs were made, making them some of the most prized pieces among collectors. Today, These proof sets were sold directly to collectors by the mint and represented a new era of coin collecting interest in the United States beyond their production. Details: the 1936 wheat pennies tell a story of transition in American life. The Great Depression had hit its lowest point just a few years earlier, but by 1936, there was a sense of progress. The Works Progress Administration had created jobs. The Social Security Act had begun to provide hope for the future, and Americans were starting to believe again in the promise of prosperity. The small copper penny circulating in the hands of millions of citizens symbolized this gradual rise from hardship. Copper itself held symbolic meaning, representing endurance and strength in the face of adversity. The average, 1936, wheat penny was made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, weighing about 31 grams. It had a diameter of 19 millimeters and was designed to last for decades. Many of these coins circulated well into the 1950s and 1960s, carrying with them the touch of countless hands and the passage of history. Each scratch and mark on a circulated penny from this era tells a story, a memory from the pockets of Americans who lived through Recovery War and progress. The Philadelphia Mint alone produced more than 309 million 1936 wheat pennies, while the Denver Mint struck over 40 million, and the San Francisco Mint made nearly 30 million. Although these numbers might seem large, not all of those coins survived over the years. Many were lost, damaged, or melted down, making well-preserved examples more valuable to collectors. Today, the coins that remain in mint state condition, especially those with vibrant original red color, are particularly sought after by numismatists. Color grading is an important factor for collectors, with pennies often classified as red-brown or brown, based on how much of their original copper luster remains. The redder the coin, the higher the potential value. As for errors and varieties, the 1936 wheat penny is famous among collectors for its doubled die obverse variety. This error occurred when the die used to strike the coin was impressed twice by the design hub, but slightly misaligned. This created noticeable doubling on Lincoln's date and motto, especially visible on the words, "In God we trust and liberty." These doubled die examples are among the most collectible and valuable 1936 pennies. Depending on their condition, they can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Another subtle variety involves repunched mint marks, where the letter D or S was struck more than once at a slightly different angle, resulting in a shadow effect. Under magnification, these varieties remind us that even small imperfections can become treasures for those who study and preserve history. The value of a 1936 wheat penny varies greatly today, depending on its type and condition. A heavily circulated coin might only be worth a few cents, while a bright uncirculated red example could be valued at several dollars, and proof versions or rare doubled dies can be worth far more. Yet beyond monetary value, the 1936 penny stands as a reminder of America's resilience. The coin was handled by workers returning to jobs, by children saving their first cents, by families buying food, and by citizens watching the nation recover and move forward. It passed from hand to hand in movie theaters, grocery stores, post offices, and factories. It was a tiny but essential part of the economic heartbeat of 1930s America. The 1936 wheat penny also connects to broader changes happening in coinage design and mint technology. The mint was improving its production quality, experimenting with new processes to reduce wear on dies, and ensuring that coins remained durable for circulation. These improvements helped maintain the reliability of American currency during a time of immense national rebuilding for collectors and historians. The 1936 penny is also a link to numismatic revival, as coin collecting gained popularity in the United States during the 1930s and 1940s. Many young collectors started with wheat pennies because they were easy to find in circulation and affordable. This period saw the rise of hobbyist organizations and coin clubs across America, creating a sense of community among people fascinated by the small pieces of metal that told big stories. Even today, the 1936 wheat penny continues to fascinate collectors, not only because of its design and rarity, but because it captures a moment in time. It represents a year when the nation was recovering from despair, moving toward hope, and building the foundation for a future of strength and prosperity. Every coin from that year is a fragment of history, a piece of copper that has witnessed generations of change and growth. When you hold a 1936 wheat penny in your hand, you are holding a relic of an era when coins meant more than just money. They were symbols of perseverance, of unity, and of the enduring American spirit that refused to give up through economic collapse. War and recovery, the wheat penny remained a companion to the Americans. The 1938 wheat penny holds a special place in American numismatic history as part of the long-running Lincoln Cent series that began in 1909 and continued through 1958 when the wheat design was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial reverse. This coin was produced during a time of significant change in the United States, standing at the edge of World War II and emerging from the depths of the Great Depression. The 1938 wheat penny represents not only a piece of economic history, but also a story of artistry, resilience, and the American spirit. The wheat penny design originated in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The designer Victor David Brenner created the famous obverse featuring a portrait of Lincoln based on a photograph taken by Anthony Berger in 1864. The reverse displayed two wheat ears symbolizing national prosperity and agricultural strength. This design remained largely unchanged until 1959, and the 1938 edition continued that tradition. The Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints all produced the 1938 wheat penny. Though in relatively modest numbers compared to other years, the Philadelphia mint struck the majority of the coins without any mint mark, while the Denver and San Francisco mints marked theirs with a small D or S respectively located below the date on the obverse. The 1938 pennies were struck in bronze composed of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. The average weight was 3.11 grams. With a diameter of 19 millimeters and a plain edge, this alloy gave the coins their distinct reddish-brown appearance that would eventually darken over time due to oxidation. The 1938 penny came at a transitional moment for the United States economy. The country was still struggling with the after-effects of the Great Depression, though signs of recovery were starting to appear. President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal policies had introduced social programs and reforms that were slowly stabilizing the economy. Coin production numbers reflected this gradual improvement as demand for small denomination currency began to rise again. However, the total mintage for 1938 was still modest compared to the years of the early 1940s when the war economy increased coin circulation. In 1938, the Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 156 million wheat pennies, the Denver Mint produced about 20 million, and the San Francisco Mint produced around 15 million. The coins from the San Francisco Mint are generally scarcer and command higher interest among collectors, especially in higher grades. The 1938 wheat penny design remained faithful to Brenner's original vision. Lincoln's profile faces right with the words, "In God we trust," inscribed above liberty to the left and the date to the right. The reverse bears the inscriptions, 1 cent and United States of America, framed by two stylized wheat ears with the motto E pluribus unum above. Despite being over a century old today, the design still stands as one of the most recognizable and beloved in American coinage. The production quality of 1938 wheat pennies was generally good, with sharp strikes and clear details on most specimens, though some examples from the Denver and San Francisco mints show minor weakness in strike, particularly on the wheat ears and the lettering. The minting technology of the time was improving, but inconsistencies were still common depending on die wear and maintenance. During the year, the penny circulated widely in everyday commerce, buying groceries, stamps, and small goods, during an era when a penny held real purchasing power. In the late 1930s, a single cent could buy a few candies or help cover postage for a letter. The wheat penny thus became an integral part of daily American life, and the 1938 issue was no exception. Collectors often seek the 1938 wheat penny for its clean design and its connection to pre-war America. The values of these coins vary depending on condition, color, and mint. Mark an average circulated 1938 penny. From Philadelphia may be worth only a few cents above face value, but uncirculated examples with original red luster can fetch several dollars higher grades certified by grading services such as PCGS or NGC can command significant premiums, especially for the scarcer San Francisco issues. One of the reasons the 1938 penny is so fascinating to collectors is its timing in American history. By 1938, the world was changing rapidly. Adolf Hitler was rising to power in Europe. Tensions were building across continents, and America was on the brink of another global conflict. The Lincoln cent circulated in pockets of working-class Americans, farmers and factory workers alike, as a symbol of endurance through challenging times. While the nation faced uncertainty abroad at home, Americans continued to rely on the stability of their currency, and the image of Abraham Lincoln served as a reminder of unity and perseverance in the numismatic community. The 1938 wheat penny also marks a period of transition in coin collecting itself, as more Americans began to see coins not just as currency, but as historical artifacts. The late 1930s saw the rise of coin albums and folders designed to help collectors organize Lincoln cents by date and mint. This popularized the hobby across the country and brought coins like the 1938 penny into the spotlight. The historical significance of the 1938 wheat penny extends beyond its metallic composition. It tells a story of craftsmanship, economics, and national pride. Each penny was struck as part of a system that connected people to their government and their economy. The image of Lincoln on the obverse reminded citizens of integrity and unity, while the wheat on the reverse symbolized growth and prosperity that every American hoped to achieve in the years ahead. Even today, more than 8 decades later, the 1938 wheat penny remains a fascinating collectible. Its connection to a pivotal moment in history, its classic design, and its representation of the resilience of the American people continue to inspire both seasoned collectors and new enthusiasts. The coin's story is not just about copper and design, but about the enduring values it represents: honesty, perseverance, and the promise of a better future through all the changes that followed the Great Depression, the Second World War, and the decades of progress that came after. The humble 1938 wheat penny stands as a small but powerful symbol of America's journey through one of the most transformative periods in modern history. By 1938, the wheat penny had already been in circulation for nearly 3 decades and had become one of the most familiar coins in American life. But its history traces back to deep cultural and political roots that connected art, economics, and national identity. The coin was first introduced in 1909 under President Theodore Roosevelt's vision to beautify American coinage. Roosevelt believed that coins should reflect the nation's ideals and artistic excellence. So he commissioned sculptors and artists to redesign outdated designs. The Lincoln cent was a direct result of this movement, marking the first time a real person, specifically a former president, appeared on a regular issue U.S. coin. This decision reflected a cultural shift toward honoring great leaders and celebrating American values in metal form. The year 1939 marked a fascinating chapter in the history of the American wheat penny, officially known as the Lincoln cent. This coin carries a legacy that began in 1909 when it was first introduced to honor President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. The wheat penny quickly became one of the most beloved coins in United States history, and the 1939 edition stands as a significant piece within that long story as we journey through the history of the 1939 wheat penny. We uncover a time when America was still recovering from the Great Depression. The nation was on the brink of great change, industries were starting to rise again, and the American people were holding on to hope. The penny at this time was more than just currency. It was a symbol of perseverance and national pride, minted in 2 main facilities, the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. The 1939 wheat penny came in two varieties. The 1939 no mint mark penny struck in Philadelphia and the 1939 D penny struck in Denver. Philadelphia coins bore no mint mark, while those from Denver displayed the small letter D below the date. Each version tells a slightly different story of production and distribution across the nation. The composition of the 1939 wheat penny followed the traditional bronze alloy made up of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. This mixture gave the coin its rich reddish-brown tone, which, over time, often darkened to deeper shades of brown or even black. Depending on storage conditions, collectors often prize the original red luster that shines from coins that have been well preserved in mint state condition. The obverse side of the coin features the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln facing right, surrounded by the words, "In God we trust liberty," and the date. 1939, the reverse side, carries the two iconic wheat ears curving along the edges of the coin, framing the words, 1 cent United States of America and E pluribus unum, meaning out of many one. The wheat ears were symbolic of prosperity and growth, fitting imagery for a country still regaining its strength during the late 1930s. Minting numbers were fairly moderate compared to some earlier years. The Philadelphia Mint struck around 316 million pennies, while the Denver Mint produced about 15 million. These numbers mean that while the 1939 penny is not considered rare, it remains a cherished collectible, especially in higher grades. The value of the 1939 wheat penny varies depending on condition. Circulated examples are generally worth only a few cents, but uncirculated specimens can range much higher. Coins with strong details, sharp lines, and bright color can command impressive prices at auctions, especially those graded mint state 65 and above by professional coin grading services. Some red-toned examples have sold for hundreds of dollars. As we dive deeper into the story of the 1939 wheat penny, it is important to consider the broader context of American life. In that year, Europe was descending into World War II, while the United States maintained neutrality, but tensions were rising. The economy was improving, and new technologies were beginning to emerge. Automobiles, radios, and motion pictures were transforming society. Coins like the wheat penny served as everyday reminders of the nation's unity and progress. During this time, Lincoln's image on the penny was especially meaningful. His leadership through America's greatest internal crisis continued to inspire citizens living through global uncertainty. The wheat penny design itself was nearing the end of its run. By the late 1930s, plans were already being considered to redesign the reverse of the coin to better reflect modern America. Eventually, in 1959, the reverse wheat ears would be replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The 1939 wheat penny therefore stands as one of the later issues of the classic wheat-back design and serves as a bridge between two eras in coinage history for collectors today. Studying and collecting 1939 wheat pennies offers insight into minting techniques of the time. Coin planchets were prepared by rolling sheets of bronze metal through presses to the correct thickness, then punching out circular blanks. These blanks were cleaned and heated before being struck by dies carrying the obverse and reverse designs. The pressure of the coin press imprinted Lincoln's portrait and the wheat ears with precision, though variations in striking strength and die wear led to differences in coin quality. These small differences are what intrigue collectors who study minor details such as doubling weak strikes and die cracks. To identify unique varieties in 1939, quality control at the mints had improved compared to earlier years. Fewer major errors were released, but minor die variations still occurred, such as slight doubling of the date or mint mark. These coins are rare and can fetch higher values among numismatists. While the 1939 wheat penny may not hold the fame of rarer years, like the 1909 SVDB or the 1914 D, its charm lies in its connection to history. Each coin passed through countless hands buying groceries, newspapers, and stamps during a time when every cent truly mattered for many Americans. The wheat penny was a symbol of thrift and hope. The simplicity of its design carried a quiet strength. Much like Lincoln himself, collectors often note how the coin's design reflects American ideals. The wheat on the reverse represented agricultural abundance and hard work, while Lincoln's profile stood for leadership, equality, and the enduring struggle for freedom. Even, the small phrase, a pluribus unum, reminded citizens of their unity through diversity. The 1939 wheat penny was a product of an era of rebuilding, but also of optimism as America looked toward the future. Numismatists and historians today study these coins not only for their monetary value, but for what they represent: the craftsmanship of early 20th century minting, the artistic vision of Victor Brenner, and the continuity of Lincoln's image across generations. When holding a 1939 wheat penny, one holds a piece of American heritage, a link to the pre-war world, and to the countless ordinary people who used these coins in their daily lives, from farmers in the Midwest to factory workers in industrial cities. The wheat penny circulated everywhere. It witnessed moments of hardship, resilience, and recovery throughout the 1930s and into the 1940s. As we continue this exploration, we can dive deeper into how these coins were used, how they aged over time, and how collectors today evaluate their beauty. Many enthusiasts categorize wheat pennies by color red-brown or red-brown, and by grade ranging from good to brilliant. Uncirculated coin grading plays a vital role in determining value and authenticity. As 2 hours of history unfolds, we trace the penny's path through minting, distribution, and collecting, uncovering the personal stories behind the metal. We explore how wartime shortages soon after 1939 would change coin compositions, leading to steel cents in 1943.